3 Part 1 ch 10. Book 3 Part 1 Chapter 10. Translated by C.A.F. Rhys Davids. Dhammasangani Enumeration of Internal Phenomenon. Book, the division entitled Elimination. Part. Chapter X, the group on Contagion. Paramasigakakam. Which are the states that are contagious? The contagion of speculative opinion. In this connection, what is the contagion of speculative opinion? Answer as for the intoxicant of speculative opinion, viz. To hold that the world is eternal, or that it is not eternal, etc. Which are the states that are not a contagion? Answer as in the case of the states that are not hindrances. Which are the states that are infected, uninfected? Answers as in the corresponding answers relating to the hindrances. Which are the states that are associated with the contagion, disconnected with the contagion? Answers as in the corresponding answer relating to the hindrances. Which are the states that are themselves contagious and infected? The contagion itself is both infected but not contagious. The states which are infected by the states afore-named. That is to say, with the exception of the latter, all co-intoxicant states whatever, good, bad and indeterminate, whether they relate to the worlds of sense, form, or the formless. In other words, the 5 skandhas. Which are the states that are disconnected with the contagion, yet infected? Disconnected with the contagion and uninfected? Answers as in the corresponding sections on the hindrances. Footnotes. The man, according to the Psi, who falls out of the right attitude toward Dhamma, i.e., who loses the belief in their impermanence, etc., lays himself open to the infectious touch of speculative views. The one kind of contagion is always for the sake of symmetry referred to as plural, e.g. the states afore-named. ASL. Dhammasangani Book 3 Part 1 ch 11. Book 3 Part 1 Chapter 11. Translated by C.A.F. Rhys Davids. Dhammasangani Enumeration of Internal Phenomenon. Book, the division entitled Elimination. Part. Chapter 11, the Great Intermediate Set of Pairs. Mahantarajikam. Which are the states that have a concomitant object of thought? The 4 skandhas. No concomitant object of thought. All form, an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are of the intellect. Cognition applied to sense impressions. The element of ideation and the element of ideational cognition. Not of the intellect. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. All form, moreover, an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are involved in the life of sense. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. Not involved in the life of sense. Intellect and all form an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are associated with thought. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. Disconnected with thought. All form an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are conjoined with thought. Detached from thought. Answers as in, respectively. Which are the states that are sprung from thought. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. Bodily and vocal intimation. Or whatever other form there be which is born of thought. Caused by thought. Sprung from thought. Whether it be in the spheres of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, or the tangible, the elements of space or fluidity, the lightness, plasticity, or wildness of form, the integration or subsistence of form, or bodily nutriment. Not sprung from thought. Thought. Also every other kind of form, an uncompounded element. Which are the states that come into being together with thought. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. Bodily and vocal intimation. Do not come into being together with thought. Thought. Also all other kinds of form, and uncompounded element. Which are the states that are consecutive to thought, not consecutive to thought. Answers as in the two foregoing answers respectively. Which are the states that are conjoined with aid sprung from thought. The skandhas of feeling, perception, and syntheses. Not conjoined with and sprung from thought. Thought itself. All form also, an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are conjoined with and sprung from, and that come into being together loith, thought. Are not such as are conjoined with and sprung from and as come into being together with thought. Answers as in the two foregoing answers respectively. Which are the states that are conjoined with and sprung from and consecutive to thought. Not conjoined with, sprung from, and consecutive to thought. Answers as in the two foregoing answer. Which are the states that are of the self. The spheres of the five senses and of ideation. External. The spheres of the five objects of sense and of ideas. Which are the states that are derived. The spheres of the five senses. And bodily nutriment. Not derived. The four skandhas, the four great phenomena and uncompounded element. Which are the states that are the issue of grasping. Co-intoxicant good and bad states, whether they relate to the worlds of sense, of form, or of the formless. In other words, the four skandhas, and such form as is due to karma having been wrought. Not the issue of grasping. Co-intoxicant good and bad states, whether they relate to the worlds of sense, of form, or of the formless. In other words, the four skandhas. Also such kriya thoughts as are neither good, nor bad, nor the effects of karma. The paths, moreover, that are the unincluded and the fruits of the paths, an uncompounded element. Footnotes. C.F. Chapter 3. Of this book. The Sai refrains from any remarks on the answers in this chapter. Saramana. C.P. Void of idea. C.K. V. Siddha. C. Cognition applied, etc. Is in the original Kakavinanam and the rest. When sense drops out of account in the following pairs, I have reverted to the approximately synonymous term thought. Kata Sika. C. This refinement in the Buddhist logic of terms is usually expressed by the brief parenthesis governed by thapetva, excepting C. E. G. Et sec. Siddha samsitha. I. E. In a condition of continuity, immediate contiguity, with thought. ASL. The contrary visamsattva equals not in the condition of continuity, immediate contiguity, with thought, although proceeding in unity with it. Ibid. Siddha samathana. Cf. Rasayatanam has been omitted in the text, apparently by inadvertence. Siddha sahabhano. I. E. Except the two modes of intimation, which are reckoned as form. C. Siddhanuparivatina. Siddha samsattha samathana. The Sai reads this and the terms in the two following pairs as dvandva compounds. The negative in the text is not distributed, and the compound of attributes qualifying states must be taken conjunctively. This is borne out by the answer. Cf. Also. Sahabano is parsed as Sahabhavanti, not Buddha. ASL. Dhammayatanam. Dhammasangani Book 3 Part 1 Ch 12. Book 3 Part 1 Chapter 12. Translated by C. A. F. Rhys Davids. Dhammasangani Enumeration of Internal Phenomenon. Book, the division entitled Elimination. Part. Chapter 12, the group on grasping. Upadanagakakam. Which are the states that have the attribute of grasping? The four graspings. The grasping after sense. The grasping after speculative opinion. The grasping after mere rule and ritual. The grasping after a theory of soul. In this connection, what is the grasping after sense? That sensual desire, sensual passion, sensual delight, sensual craving, sensual cleaving, sensual fever, sensual languishing, sensual rapacity, which is excited by the pleasures of the senses. What is the grasping after speculative opinion? There is no such thing as alms, or sacrifice, or offering. There is neither fruit, nor result of good, or of evil deeds. There is no such thing as this world, or the next. There is no such thing as mother or father, or beings springing into birth without them. There are in the world no recluses or Brahmins who have reached the highest point, who have attained the height, who, having understood and realized by themselves alone both this world and the next, make known the same, all this sort of speculation. This walking in opinion, wilderness of opinion, puppet show of opinion, scuffling of opinion, this fetter of opinion, the grip and tenacity of it, the inclination towards it, the being infected by it, this bypath, wrong road, wrongness, this fording place, this shiftiness of grasp. This is what is called the grasping after speculative opinion. And with the exception of the graspings after mere rule and ritual and after soul theory, all wrong views are included in the grasping after speculative opinion. What is the grasping after mere rule and ritual? Answer as for the contagion of mere rule and ritual. What is the grasping after soul theory? Answer as for the theory of individuality. Which are the states that have not the attribute of grasping. All other states whatever, good, bad and indeterminate, whether they relate to the worlds of sense, or of form, or of the formless, or to the life that is unincluded. In other words, the four skandhas. All form also an uncompounded element. Which are the states that are favorable grasping. Co-Intoxicant states, good, bad and indeterminate whether they relate to the worlds of sense, form, or the formless. In other words, the five skandhas. Which are the states that are not favorable to grasping. The paths that are the unincluded, and the fruits of the paths. An uncompounded element. Which are the states that are associated with grasping, disconnected with grasping, grasping and also favorable to grasping, favorable to grasping but not grasping. Answer exactly analogous to those given to corresponding questions in other groups, e.g. Which are the states that are both grasping and associated with grasping. The grasping after speculation in conjunction with that after sense is both, and conversely. So is each of the other TiVo grasping s in conjunction with that after sense, and conversely. Associated with grasping but not grasping? Disconnected with grasping yet favorable to it? Disconnected with grasping and not favorable to it? Answer as in the groups specified above, et sec. Footnotes. Abhidhamma. This fundamental notion in Buddhist ethics is in the Psi. Paraphrased by the words they take violently, i.e. they take hold with a strong grasp, the prefix upa being credited with augmentative import as in other terms, such as upayaso and upakutho. This shows that, insofar as Buddhaghosa gives the traditional sense, the word, in the Buddhism of his day, connoted rather the dynamic force of grasping than the static condition of attachment or cleaving. Nor does his comment ratify such renderings as Hang or Lebenstrieb. Fossball seizures and Oldenburgser Griefen, on the other hand, agree with Buddhaghosa. The relation of the cognate term upadaniyo to upadhanam is most clearly set forth in s. 4. There the special senses are termed upadaniya Dhamma, and the passionate desire connected there with the upadana m. See also s. 4. Buddhaghosa makes no comment on upadaniya m when, as in, it is applied to Dhamma. but when it is a question of rupam upadaniyam, he defines this as states which are favorable to the graspings as objects by their being bound up with grasping. In other words, phenomena which are the conditions of the mental objects of grasping. In the same connection, rupam upadanam is by Buddhaghosa defined as states which have been got, laid hold of, taken, by way of fruition, heaped up by karma having the property of craving. Ibid. None of the comments explains upadanam in the sense of fuel, i.e. as the basis of rebirth. Each of the four upadanas is paraphrased simply by to grasp at sense, at speculation, etc. See and. Also, the Sai explains these negations as merely meaning that none of the three has an efficacy, any fruition. ASL. Ignoring any deeper metaphysic that may have here been implied, the Sai explains these negations as held by the inhabitant of another world respecting this, or by an inhabitant here below respecting another world. Ibid. Being so born, continues the Sai, he assumes there are none. Nor have one's former lives any efficacy over one's subsequent parentage. Buddhaghosa gives as typical forms of speculation grasped at, both the soul and the world are eternal. These he calls the Puramaditham Uttaraditham, terms which, whether they mean earlier and subsequent heresies, or Eastern and Northern views, or both, are equally interesting. The text, however, selects as a typical current speculation the views put forward by Ajita. The bovine morality and practices noticed above are again instanced in the Sai. Ibid. The first path disposes of all forms of grasping save the first, the extirpation of which is a task not finished till all the four paths have been traversed. ASL. Contrast with this N, where in every case sense, sensuality, and sensual desire are in the Sai said to succumb in the third or anagamas path.